Welcome to our February Luncheon Lab called Vanity or Valuable Brand Metrics That Really Matter. Thank you guys for being here. I want to encourage you to put your information in the chat, your contact information. I do always view these workshops as an opportunity to network. So if you don't mind, you can put your information in the chat. And then we'll have some periods where you can provide some feedback in the chat as well throughout the remainder of the workshop. And we call them luncheon labs. The idea is that we do get some interactivity going. We get a chance to kind of come up with ideas, test them, talk about them, and we get some engagement going. So hopefully we'll be able to do that today and have a few more people join. But we'll go ahead and jump into the content. I'm Reggie Holmes. I am the founder and creative director of Enthuse Creative. Is a strategic branding and design studio based in the DC metro area. And I come to this as a designer who has picked up brand strategy along the way in order to better inform the work that I do on the creative side. And I am going to confess that I am not a numbers guy. So the idea of metrics and numbers is not necessarily something that appeals to me. But I've learned in the course of the 8 years that I've been running my business that it's pretty important. So take that for what it is, but I feel your pain if you are not a numbers person and you know, don't come to this with that as an area of expertise. But hopefully through our discussion today, we'll talk about why it's important to really know the numbers for your business, particularly as it relates to your brand presence and metrics that show you how your brand is showing up and how you're doing in your marketing efforts. And the goal is that we help people become not just business owners, but brand owners. And that means that they really understand what their brand is, what is happening with their brand in the marketplace. It's difficult to say that you own or control your brand because it's very much a back and forth between you and your customers and the marketplace. But to the degree that you can, our goal when I work with clients is to help them really know their brand well so they can embody it and so that they have a real sense of confidence in terms of what they're putting out in the marketplace. So that's what we say, what we mean when I say a brand owner as well as a business owner. And our objectives for today's Luncheon Lab are really threefold. One, to highlight why it's important to know and track these important branding or marketing metrics. Two, to identify what some of the most important metrics are and talk about why they're important. And then to give small business owners or small businesses tools, tech, and tactics to start tracking some of these metrics. So that's really what we want to accomplish today. And just to sort of ground us, statistic, according to the U.S. Small Business Administration, businesses that make less than $5 million a year should allocate between 7 and 8% of their revenues to marketing. That's what is suggested. In other words, if your company brings in, let's say 200K a year, around 15,000 of that should go into marketing. So that's just sort of a baseline as we start to have these discussions about metrics and numbers. Obviously, the financial numbers are a big part of that. And our assumption, you know, based on what we have here from the SBA, is that regardless of where your business or your organization is, you're spending some money to help people know about your products and services, to bring more awareness and attention to your business, and to bring in new customers. So with the idea in mind that you are spending some money, whether it's this threshold or not, the key question in that is how do you know or ensure that your money is being well spent. And that's something that every business owner has at the front of their mind. Obviously, making money, but the goal is really not just to make money, but to keep money. And the money that you spend in an effort to make money, is it actually achieving the result? It was that money put to the best use, and that's really the key reason why we study or look at numbers, is to make sure that we're, as business owners, making smart investments, smart decisions, um, and that our efforts are resulting in the results that we want. Right. Okay. So if you think about yourself as a small business owner and you start to think about metrics and this idea of numbers and, tracking, I know for me, that doesn't get me very excited. I find those things naturally to be confusing, frustrating, perhaps even overwhelming. And you can comment in the chat how you feel about the idea of metrics and numbers and tracking those things as it relates to how your business or your organization is doing. We'd love to know how you guys feel about that. And it's important to keep in mind that, of course, everybody doesn't come from a background or experience where they're used to doing that. And there are many reasons why small businesses can feel that way. Some of the reasons that I thought of in putting this together were that they've received bad advice, perhaps that it's not important, or that they should just focus on the production of whatever it is that makes the money in their business. They do just sort of find it overwhelming because there are so many numbers that are out there. And the idea of this workshop sort of came about from that perspective for me, thinking about, okay, there's so many numbers and so many data points to track. How do we know what's really important? I'm in the creative field, and I deal with branding, and it can be very difficult to sort of measure branding. And so that's one thing that went into that as well. But okay, we're spending money, we're getting all these reports and analytics. What do they mean? What's really important? What can I look at that lets me know that I'm doing the right things or on the right track as far as bringing in customers, getting my message out about my brand, more people becoming aware, and ultimately more people wanting my products and services. Some other reasons could be that, again, they're more focused on whatever it is that they produce, or they simply think that that's not something that they need to do. If we think about the big businesses and corporations that are out there, they are very in touch with their data. There are huge data centers in Loudoun County and other places around here in the DC metro area that exist just to store data from these large companies that are basically built on that. And so large companies have understood for a while how important data is. But when they start to get down to the small business level, it's something that we can overlook. And the good thing is that there are tools and things that are in place now to sort of help small businesses to harness the power of data, because it is very powerful, and use it in ways that will actually help them as small businesses to grow. So we don't have to be confused. We don't have to be frustrated or overwhelmed going forward. Hopefully today you'll have some tools that will help you be able to manage this better and have ownership and control over that, so you can harness it to help grow your business. So this is important, because if you don't know your numbers, you can't grow your numbers, right? And that's really what it comes down to. And again, the big businesses have figured out down to one cup of coffee at your favorite coffee shop, at Starbucks. It doesn't escape them who's buying what in what quantities, and they're using all these things to optimize their business. And then I like to say that you can't monetize what you can't measure. So if you are getting traffic to specific pages, or getting clients and customers to take the actions that you want them to take, but you have no way of tracking it, you can't really make profit off of that. The more information you have, the more ability you're going to be able to use that to grow your business. So those are two things to keep in mind about why this is so important. And if you think about the world that we live in today, it's very much a data-driven world. Most transactions, a lot of transactions and interactions happen in a digital setting, and that's kind of all data-driven. And so the more you can be aware of what's happening from a data perspective in your business, the better that's going to position you to be able to take advantage of opportunities that the data shows you is there. So. And if you have questions, we've got a small group, so feel free to put that in the chat. I'll do my best to try to tackle that as we go along. Since we, don't have a big crowd or anything, we've got an intimate group. We can make this, situation where we kind of answer these questions on the fly. So some other reasons or perspectives on why this is important. Again, thinking in terms of bigger businesses who do have, a different approach to data and have learned how to use it for their benefit. It provides better alignment between your goals, your systems, and your outcomes. Again, if the data is showing you that customers like a particular method or a particular product or service, you can on the fly or in real time tailor the way that you do things to provide them more of that, or make other changes that will benefit your business. It also allows you to provide your customer a more relevant and premium experience. Again, once you find out from the data what decisions they're making as they go through the process of becoming familiar with your company or organization, your products and services, moving through that funnel that we'll talk a little bit about, you can figure out ways to increase or add more value to, over time, refine their experience, so you're giving them more of what they want. And it gives you real clarity about how your brand is doing at each touch point. And we'll come back to that word, touch point. Yes, the slides will be provided, as well as a link to the recording of the workshop as well. So if you do need to leave early or anything like that, you will be able to get access to the recording and the slides. So one thing to just keep in mind, there are different types of businesses, and you will have different goals for your customers, different things that you want them to accomplish. For example, if you have an e-commerce site like this website, they may be measuring things like unique visitors, referrals. They may be measuring their churn rate, their month-over-month recurring revenue, lifetime value, those sorts of things. We'll talk a little bit about some of these most important metrics, but keep in mind, if you have, a nonprofit, for example, you don't have a subscription, or, they're not products that people are buying. You may be tracking visitors and donations, or if you have a service-based business, it may be how many people click through to set up an appointment. So the nature of what you're tracking as what we call a KPI, or key performance indicator, here on this slide, it has a lot to do with what type of business you're actually running. So what are brand and marketing metrics? Values that to showcase the performance of your brand or marketing campaigns across different channels. And then we mentioned KPIs, quantifiable measure of performance over time for a specific objective. So it's going to be time bound, it's going to be quantifiable. It can be those raw numbers, or or formulas. And one thing that I want to say is sort of my idea of what a brand is. Um, Branding has a lot to do with, so I think there are three um, goals of a brand. It's to identify, to connect, and to differentiate. And so marketing is more aligned with getting the customer to take specific action. Brand has a lot to do with getting the customer to perceive, to understand and value your business in a certain way. So the brand may or may not directly lead to the same sorts of metrics or goals as marketing. I think marketing is what I would call an extension of branding. But if we think of that definition, it's whatever helps people to identify, connect with, and create a difference in their minds between you and someone else that they could buy products or services from. And all these metrics, even if they're marketing metrics, I think they give us important branding information because it tells us how the brand is performing in terms of perception and position at all the different areas of the touch points. And there are different types of metrics. I think for almost all of them, they tell you a couple of pieces of information that are important. They're metrics that tell you about you. So they give you insight into your business. They're metrics that give you insight into your customer, what they think, what's important to them. And then there are metrics that give you information about your competition and just the marketplace that you're in. So I think with all of these numbers and different formulas and data points that we're going to talk about, those are three things that you want to think about. What does this tell me about my business? What does this tell me about my customer? And then what does this tell me about the competition or the competitive landscape that my business or my organization is in? And we mentioned that word touch point. So that's just a sort of a catch-all word that kind of means any place where your brand will show up, where a customer can have some kind of interaction with your brand, with your business or organization. And most of these are, if we're honest, they're things that we use every day. They're things that we encounter in some way, shape, or form. Search, if you think about Google, how many times a day do you look for something on Google? Traffic, that could be traffic, organic, direct from people putting your website, for example, into the browser, or from one of the search engines, driving traffic through a search to your website. Email marketing is going to continue to be important. Social media, most of us are engaged in some type of social media on a daily basis. And there are also ads, which are a part of almost all of these other channels as well. There are some others out there. If you could think about other examples of different touch points and in a digital space where people can interact or engage with your brand, you can put that in the chat as well. As we think about these different metrics and the things we're going to talk about, it's important to know that they must be mapped to the actions that you want your customers to take. And you'll see this word conversions, and conversions can be anything really, but it's the ultimate act that your branding or marketing efforts should result in, that you want the person on the other end of that interaction, that touch point. What do you want them to do? What do you want them to achieve? That's ultimately a conversion. And so it's important to keep in mind that as we think about these things, what you want people to achieve from a website search that lands them on your website might be different than what you want to achieve through running a social media campaign, or they might be the same. But as you think about the metrics that we'll talk about, it's important to consider as you're planning what a conversion is on all those different touch points. And, we'll talk a little bit about content, because content is how we get people to start to move through the funnel, to start to move toward taking the actions that we want them to take. And a lot of times where people will first, if we think about branding, being identify, connect, differentiate, where people first identify and start to make a connection is through often some type of content that you put out on one of these channels through one of these touch points. So it's important to kind of frame these branding and marketing efforts and ultimately the metrics that they tell us through this lens of content, and think about how content is a big part of this process. So we'll just leave this here for a second. This is kind of a highlighting the customer journey, and I'll refer to this again in the slides, but it's essentially 4 steps. There are many sort of perspectives on this or different kind of directions that people take, but it's essentially awareness. People become aware, they show interest, they express a desire, and then they take action. And it's shaped like a funnel because the idea is that, there's on one end, the number of prospective purchasers is going down. It starts very wide at the top. So, you're trying to do things that create the most awareness possible, right? That's the largest section. That's what you want to have a lot of. That's where the potential is. You want to get a lot of people into this funnel. As they move through the journey, not everyone that's aware will show interest. So you start to change what you do as far as the content that you put in front of that audience for those that have moved from awareness to interest. The nature of the content and the interactions change even more from those who go beyond interest to desire. And at this point, you can consider them prospective customers. And then when they take action, they become customers. So this is a very high level sort of illustration of what happens. And throughout each of these, there will be metrics that correspond that you can use to sort of show you if you're doing the right things, if you're moving people through this journey in a way that's going to help grow your business and grow your brand. So similarly is the content marketing funnel. Beth, I'm sure you're really aware of this. It's shaped like a funnel as well, because the idea is that there's these things that are used for awareness at the top, and then the nature of the content changes as people go from top to middle to bottom of the funnel. And awareness, evaluation, conversion. Oh, that sounds a lot like awareness, interest, desire, and action. So it's very similar. What you want to try to do is match their customer journey with your content and align them as people go through. So they're getting the type of content that's going to move them through the journey. You're providing what they need to move them from one level to the next. And if all these things are set up the right way, you can have data to measure, how well you're doing, and that will give you great feedback on your brand. I see some comments. So suspect, it's not suspect in a bad way. It just means that not yet a prospect. So they're um, you know, checking it out. They have some interest, but they haven't moved to a prospect level yet. So it's just a word to kind of differentiate between people who are still kind of investigating. Like, in a criminal case, someone can be under suspicion, but um, they're not, arrested, right? You can't just arrest them until there's like probable cause. So we think of it in a negative sense, but in this case, it's just someone that is moving through the process of making a decision. When they get um, to beyond interest to actually wanting what you offer, then they're a prospect before they become a customer. So, great question. All right, so the metrics that matter. So here we'll kind of talk about a few of these, and talk about why they're important. But keep in mind, mapping your KPIs to that journey that the customer is on and that you are on in terms of a business or organization providing valuable content to help move them through their journey. So awareness, there's impressions, reach, and then engagement. And this is important, excuse me. Impressions are just how many people, how many times it shows up, right? If you post something on social. Reach has more to do with how many people could potentially see it. And so there are things that you can do to increase how many people actually get a chance to engage with your content. Like, engagement is the goal, and we'll talk a little bit more about that shortly, but impressions is like a big number. Reach can be an even bigger number, but the goal is really to look at engagement. And I think in the beginning of social media, people get carried away with impressions and likes and those types of things. And that's not the highest level of engagement or awareness that you want. And it's important to make that distinction. So this is a post. It's not my post. It's from LinkedIn. And I've redacted some of the information here. But if you think about the way that these social media, are set up, is they're doing a lot to encourage you to engage. There's up here, someone commented. This is someone's post. Their information is here. This is sort of what they wrote about. They want you to see more. They give you a snippet, an engaging picture, where it came from, what it's about. They show you the different reactions that people have had, and then how many people have previously had a engagement of some kind, some reaction or response, then how many actually commented. And on LinkedIn, comments are much more valuable. I've heard up to 4 times more valuable than likes or reactions. So the best way to get eyes on a post or some piece of content is to have comments. And then of course you have a comment here, and it's going to show you what the system feels is the most relevant of those comments. So, and then you can also actually follow the person who posted this. There's some more options here, but there's about 8 to 10 ways that you can instantly engage with this post. And so, it's fed to us in feed, and, which we can just scroll. But really, if you think about the way that this is set up, it's meant to try to optimize engagement, which is cool. Just kind of deconstructing how these posts show up. We have like 4 types of engagement. And, I've sort of broken these down. This is my own kind of way of of organizing these, acknowledgement. Hey, I saw that you put that out there, like, favorite, reaction. That's the easiest, simplest form of engagement. And that's the least valuable. Association, this is even more valuable. Interacting, replying, commenting, like we talked about, mentioning, and then following. And so you can see that the posts are designed to sort of get you to associate your identity with the identity of the person that made the post. But there's a couple of different ways to do that, whether you're engaging on others' posts or doing your own. And then amplification, sharing, that's really important as well to increase that reach that we talked about earlier. So going a step beyond, I think the best combination is commenting and sharing to get the most engagement. But amplification is really important, particularly for things that you care a lot about. But ultimately, the goal is to get them to take action, whether it's clicking through to your website. Let's say, for example, that previous post was a blog on a person's website. They're gonna see in the caption a little bit of it, but the goal is to get them to go through to the website to read it. And then some others, opting in, donating, buying, or scheduling the appointment. So think about, again, what your ultimate goals are, and then that will determine how you set up the post and how you're able to measure, conversions or how effective it was. So moving on to interest and desire. I kind of combine these two together. So there's website traffic and volume. How many people are coming to your website? What source did they come from? Where? How'd they get there? What pages did they visit? So their activity once they're on the page, on your website. How long did they stay? Were they on one or two pages for 30 seconds and leave? Did they bounce away immediately? Or did they stay for 5 minutes reading your blog? So what did they do? And did they ultimately, if you sent them there from an ad or a specific post, did they take the action that you wanted them to take? This is Google Analytics. I'm sure you're familiar with this. But this is the dashboard, gives you all this information, which is really helpful. Sorry about that. So users, how many came, how many were new, people that had never been to the site before, or at least within the amount of time that you have, it's set up for to review. Sessions, how many of those people, how many sessions of actually going to your site? So this is great because it's a little bit over one. So that means there are a lot of repeat people who came to the site for more than one session. How many page views? That's a lot of page views. That's about almost 1.75 pages per session. So this website is doing a great job of getting people to not only come, and but looking at more than one page. It's close to 2. And 1 minute and 25 seconds, that's not a long time. But I think that's pretty good in terms of numbers across the board. And then bounce rate, that's pretty high. How many people came and just left right away? Your goal would be to try to lower that number, increase that session duration. But I think this is pretty good. And this over here shows, there's less than 20% returning visitors, but over 80% of the people that came were new visitors. So some content out there is getting a lot of new people to come to this website. And so they're doing something right. They're not staying an incredibly long time. So a lot of people are coming and bouncing away quickly, but a good number of people are staying for almost 1.5 minutes and are looking at close to 2 pages. So if it's, one landing page and then you're taking some action, they're doing a good job of that. So these are all numbers that you want to think about, sort of compare month to month, year over year. Google Analytics, powerful free tool that allows you to do that. And then action, conversion. What counts as a conversion? That question that we talked about earlier. The suspect becomes a prospect as they move through the funnel from just becoming aware to becoming interested, desire, and then ultimately taking that action. So, so what are those tangible steps? Is it a landing page? Is it a form where they opt in, for your email list or your lead magnet, white paper or guide? Carefully consider what that is and what a conversion looks like. So a couple of other metrics, these are more like formulas, and they start to factor in, money spent and what that money is doing, and as it relates to your sales and customers. So CPL, cost per lead, and as you look around, you may find some different, language as far as what these things are called, but essentially, how much does it cost me to get a lead? The amount spent versus the leads generated. And compare that alongside with where your leads come from to determine your best channels for business growth. So if I'm spending, I don't know, $100 on Facebook ads, for example, and that generated 5 leads, then, my cost per lead was like $20, right? Which is pretty good if, your leads are several hundred or $1,000 in terms of customers. You'll also want to, do leads over customers to figure out how many of those leads turned into customers. But when you think about that spend that all businesses need to do to grow, you can start to compare channels and see, well, I'm spending a lot less to get, better customers over on social as opposed to Google ads or something like that. So having that data allows you to figure out, well, where do I need to put my money in order to get, the most bang for my buck and leads coming into my business. Similarly, your customer acquisition cost, how much does it take me to get a customer? So now we're not just looking at leads, we're looking at people that are actually customers. This has some content on it that's not supposed to be there. But the idea of customer acquisition cost, that's cost associated with converting that prospect into a customer. And that can be not just, the actual marketing costs, but any other costs that are involved as well. And that's important to help you track your return on your spend. Again, which channels offer the best return on that investment. And, just allows you to put your money in the right places to figure out, okay, what's the full cost of turning someone who is at the awareness stage into a customer. So conversion rate, how many of your leads actually, took the action? So you had that number of leads that come through. How many of them become customers? The click through to a thank you page, or, they downloaded a document. Usually on the back end, there's some way that you can tell that a person went through the funnel and actually became a customer. And so you track those conversions over, let's say, visitors to your website times 100. That will give you a rate of, how well you're doing in actually converting. And now shows you how effective, your campaign or marketing effort was. And then the customer lifetime value or just lifetime value. How much is a customer worth over a lifetime? You can track your year over year spend from the clients that you retained and look at how much that fluctuated. So when you have customers, let's say you have retainers and you work with them for a number of years, you can see, okay, well, in 2021, they were worth X amount of dollars. And then you can track that over, 2022. We kept that customer. Let's say we raised the rate and they actually ordered more. So their lifetime value, is this number for the year, but year over year is growing by this percentage. So that means that we're adding more value to this client over time. In some ways, it's a measure of trust, right? Not only have they stuck with my business, they've ordered more over years. And so that's increased the value of that relationship. And maybe there's more value there to be added. But you wouldn't know that if you weren't tracking that. So it's your the total client spend over a certain time period. And that will help you sort of know the average cost of working with me, for like a year, or for, the average lifetime client value is X amount of dollars from when they onboard to, whenever we stop working with them. And that's a great number to know in terms of even trying to prospect or seek after new work. Can let people know, okay, well, the lifetime value is around this amount. We build quality relationships and they last for a while. They're not just one and done. And, this is a reflection of the value that we provide to clients over time. So good numbers to know and to have, and you're able to kind of use them in a number of ways. So some tools, a lot of these are free. Some of these are not free, but they have either a free tier or, a low cost option. So there are Google tools like Google Analytics. The dashboard that I showed earlier is from Google Analytics. Google Trends, which allows you to see what's popular, what are people searching for. And then, just the search console itself sort of shows you what keywords are out there that people are really looking for. There's some others, Ahrefs, SEMrush, Moz. And then all the social media channels have dashboards that show you content like who's looking at your posts, comments, and the levels of engagement. And one thing that I've noticed is that it's to the social media channels benefit to give you that information, right? They're collecting that data. It's to their benefit to show it to you because it shows you, how the tool is working for you, right? And the more you understand it and the more you see those numbers, it's going to encourage you to use it more, right? If you see that you had a post that was particularly popular and got a lot of engagement, it's encouraging you to do more of that, right? So it's to their benefit to sort of show you these numbers and, help you understand it so you can make better use of their platform, right? It's everybody wins in that sense. And then there are a lot of spreadsheets and templates that are out there for kind of tracking this stuff more manually. But I definitely think that many of these tools will help you and kind of automate that a little bit, which is great because again, it can be overwhelming and you can sort of be buried under the numbers. And that's not what we want. We want you to have a grasp of what's happening at a high level and be able to use that to make informed business and brand decisions. So to recap, what matters most is what counts as a KPI and a conversion for your business. There are a lot of things that you can track, but honestly, they don't matter if it doesn't matter to your business. Gather, understand, and use the data already happening in your business to perceive and create advantages. So looking at what's already happened can not only help you sort of predict what to expect in the future, but it can help you see today where, you have an edge on competitors, right? There's a reason why they make all this data available. So And then there's tools and technologies that are available to help you measure and monitor what's happening. Again, it's to your benefit to know uh, and try to make it something that is under your control, at least under your purview, so you can be more informed as a business owner and really be in control, at least of that aspect of the way that you're running your business. And like we said in the beginning, know your numbers so you can grow your numbers. The young lady in the beginning, she was confused, a bit stressed out. This young lady is confident, feeling good about what's happening in her business. Um, she probably has a good grasp of the numbers. She knows what's happening and knows the right decisions to make because she's making the data work for her. I was part of a workshop earlier this week with a business, the creative business strategist, Michael Janda. Not sure if you know of him, but he had a great quote that I thought was really relevant to this topic. Data is the scoreboard for your business. You can always in sports look at the scoreboard and know if you're winning or losing, what you need to do to get in the game or to, have the advantage. And the data, again, which these big companies have known for years and it may work for them. Data is the way that we as small businesses can do that. So that's it. You're very much welcome to scan the code